What is going on, everybody? Oh, I just forgot. I didn't realize I was doing that whole live with my mic all the way up on the banister. And good thing it's a good mic because it picked it up quite a bit. And, so hopefully it didn't sound horrible during the live stream earlier. But I want to welcome you guys all to Techbot After Dark. And just another night. I'm still trying to, if you guys watched the live stream from earlier, I'm still trying to get those nasty jelly beans. That's kids leaving to go see Christmas lights. Bye. And if you guys are coming, I'm still trying to get that flavor out of my mouth. Those things are horrible. I would rather take the spice and the hot stuff over these jelly beans any day. They were horrible. But today we are talking Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because I talk a lot of Funkos, I talk a lot of Star Wars and different stuff. I don't talk as much movies, and I absolutely love movies, especially Marvel. And I know a lot of you guys out there are going through Marvel withdrawals. So I figured I've got a good guest up here that definitely will challenge me on different things out there, as well as have a world of knowledge on the comic book side. So we are going to bring in my buddy over at Comic Book Poser. What is happening, buddy?
What's up?
So, you have a wide variety of good information as far as comic book side, stuff like that. I mean, I know comic book side, but I don't know all the characters by any means. I mean, there's so many characters within the Marvel universe. It is, other than the main ones that everybody knows about. Are you a fan of the MCU?
Yeah, that it became like clockwork for me when all the movies were coming out. That May release would always be on top of our state forensics tournament. So we would, my squad and I would go see whatever the newest release was before we would get ready to compete in the tournament. So, yeah, I'm one of those people who's jonesing for something new. Like, I saw that they just announced that Wonder Woman was going to be on HBO Max, and I was like, "Ooh, can we get Black Widow?"
That's what I'm hoping. There's supposed to be a big announcement time. I think it's around the 8th or the 7th, from Disney. And originally they were saying they were moving Black Widow back to May, which I don't get. I know you guys want to put it out in the theaters. I mean, at least even Wonder Woman, they're saying that they are still going to put it in the theaters, but they're also going to give it available to video on demand. And I mean, why not do the best of both worlds? Because I mean, really, if you think about it, if you wait till May, at this point, to me, Regal Cinemas are gone.
Mm-hmm.
They're bankrupt. AMC's just about to go bankrupt. So what's going to be left? So you're going to wait till May, and what theaters are you going to put this thing in?
Yeah. Regals are the only ones that are within 30 minutes of me, and then AMC's corporate office just moved from the Kansas City, Missouri side to the Kansas City, Kansas side. And with some of the end of year state COVID funds that we have left, they're pushing it at AMC because that's one of the big non-agricultural industries that's still in Kansas that they're like, we can't let you die or go somewhere else.
Well, I know that at one point there was a big thing where Amazon had made an offer for AMC, and apparently they wanted too much. And Amazon, I mean, what is too much for Amazon? I mean, I don't know, but apparently it wasn't worth their time at the time. And I'm still not hating that idea of Amazon actually buying AMC, because I think there could be very good upsides for the consumer on that aspect. Yeah. But again, we have to, at this point, it's kind of like when you have written books. Now comic books I can never do digitally. I have done some digitally, but I don't care. I like the paper. But when you go regular books, like when I've done school, I do everything in virtual. It's easier, it's faster for me. And even when I started going into books, when everything went digital, I was all for going digital. Now, of course, they're going to have the big people that are like, I gotta have the book, I gotta have a hardback book, I gotta have a paperback book, I have to have in front of me. And but you're also gonna have the people that like the digital, and I think that's where we're at with the movie industry is, yes, we're going to have the theaters that the people are going to want to go to the theater, see it on the big screen, feel that rumbling in your seats. Yes, Endgame, fantastic on the big screen.
Yeah.
There are some movies I'd say you can easily go and have that great experience, but there's a lot of movies that you can go, I'd rather just watch at home.
Yeah.
So why not at this point embrace, and especially with Disney. Disney, you have a streaming service. Use it as your advantage. Because, again, other than The Mandalorian, luckily you got WandaVision finally coming out, but other than The Mandalorian, you had The Mandalorian trying to keep you along. You thought that your archive of movies was going to sustain you, and it hasn't.
I'm wondering if they're looking to see how well the Mulan live action Mulan did for them numbers wise. Like, I know we didn't watch it, and that's only because that the live action films are still a little too old for our kids.
Yeah.
Like, they've done live action Lion King and could get into that because it was animals, but we tried Aladdin and that was like, nope, they wanted the cartoon. So
yeah.
But I'm wondering if that would bring more people into spending that money, since I think you get a wider consumer base from these comic book movies, because you get people who, don't even, have never read a comic book that bought into the characters because they became a massive part of the zeitgeist across the past, 15 years?
All right, at least the past 10, 11 years. And the thing is, they've built this universe. So even if you weren't a comic book person, you've been involved in, the storyline from one to the next, and you realize that each movie is somewhat connected in some way, shape, or form. But they did release numbers from Mulan, and originally they were getting great numbers for Mulan. Then I guess it slowed down because there was some sort of controversy, and which I didn't even realize this until I read into it. Was there some sort of controversy that came out because of actually where they filmed the movie, which I still don't know at this point. I don't know the full controversy, but apparently it had something to do with where the actual location of filming the movie. Maybe it was in China, maybe it was somewhere else. Of course, they want something. If you're going to put something that traditional into China, the only thing with that live action that I think is different from the other live actions they've done, you took away your comedic role.
Yeah.
You took away Mushu. So, but the thing is, for a Marvel, for people doing Marvel, will they pay the $30? Because for me, I'm all for video on demand, because for me, I've got young kids. You've got young kids. I can't always go and see these movies in the theaters because I got young kids. They're not going to sit through these things, and they're not going to, all that stuff. So they are, for me to be able to order it online at home is so much easier, and I can actually watch it, on time or not have to skip out or something like that. Luckily, and funny is when we went into Endgame, I brought my oldest, and she was for it up until after the first hour. After the first hour, she's like, "Daddy, is this almost done yet?" I'm like, "No, we got a lot more to go."
Yeah.
So she was kind of getting bored by the end, but like I said, I know I'm going through Marvel MCU withdrawals.
Yeah.
Luckily, we're gonna get WandaVision soon, and like I said, I'm right there with you. I hope we get some good news at the beginning of December as far as Black Widow goes, because like I said, I really think that's a nail in the coffin for Disney. That being that you can get Wonder Woman. Hell, at this point, I'm not a DC guy, but I'm almost thinking of getting HBO Max just so I can watch Wonder Woman. Something, give me something.
Yeah. Well, I'd say, if you're looking for some kind of fill the void, I've always been more skewed towards Marvel than DC. DC shows are killer. And
the TV shows,
even if I never had the time to get invested in Arrow, but Stargirl was really good. Doom Patrol is really good. That I'm all about hopping in on those to kind of fill that void. And
that Arrowverse that they did over at the CW was fantastic. I'm way behind on it, but at one point I got fully caught up with all of them. Legends of Tomorrow, Arrow, Flash. I think that actor for the Flash, is fantastic. I think he's a great actor.
Oh yeah.
And then there's even another one in there, but the Arrowverse is fantastic. I think, especially when they did their, after a while, you had 4 different shows, and then you had the big crossover events, and it really got you involved in all of the different shows. So I think they did fantastic with that, and I think that they tried to do that with Netflix with the Marvel line when they had the Defenders and stuff like that, but I just didn't think they hit the mark. Unfortunately, I still think that I think they missed the mark a little bit on there with not having the Punisher involved in that.
Well, I think part of it too was they didn't try and build them into the MCU. Like Agent Carter, you got little callbacks to things. But I think that's where they failed to build that broader universe. And I think that's what they're trying to rectify with WandaVision, What If, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that I think they're trying to marry all of those to create a cross-media universe.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's what it is. I think if I look at all the Netflix series, and now I'm still watching, I'm almost done with the Punisher with the 2 seasons they did. Absolutely fantastic. I always forget the guy's name, but he is, out of all 3 Punishers we've had in history, of course anybody's better than the first one with Dolph Lundgren. But
I'm a hack. I'm a hack for Lundgren.
I actually put Dolph at second. The other guy wasn't horrible, but he didn't have that like empty look to him.
Yeah.
But the guy they played the Punisher recently is fantastic. To me, the way he plays it is the way you read it in the comic books. Yeah. Stone cold, dead, just kill everybody as much as possible. Yeah. But he has a code. He still has that code to him. And I think he played a fantastic. And also, I would agree that the guy who played Murdoch in Daredevil was fantastic.
Yeah, I am yearning for Daredevil into the big MCU. I agree. Think they need redemption from Ben Affleck destroying that character in the big screen.
Well, I think it's not only Ben Affleck kind of destroyed it, but I think also the storyline destroyed it, because you got to remember, I remember I was disappointed watching it because I remember reading some old school Daredevil comics when I was a kid and thinking, man, and this is me as a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid going, man, these are dark. Yeah. These are really, really dark comics. And, that's what I got of it. But when you saw that, you're like, where's the feel? Where's the darkness? Where's the, it's not there. And I get it. They weren't trying to go for the rated R version. They were trying to go for the PG-13. And I think that's where they're going to run into now. I think Disney, of course, they've never had the rated R series, but I think with signing Ryan Reynolds to the ginormous contract they gave him for Deadpool, I think that they are going to open up the R-rated side of MCU. They're going to have to.
Well, I could even see them doing alternate cuts, like they did the lighten down Deadpool.
Oh yeah, like the Christmas thing or whatever.
Yeah, that I think it's something that they would have to do, but I could also see alternate cuts pulling people in where, like, I understand that you're the House of Mouse and you don't want to push the envelope, but especially with all of the big acquisitions from Fox, you have characters that have to push that R rating, or you're not going to get to see them flourish as much as they should. Like, you shouldn't water down a Punisher, a Deadpool, Wolverine when he got watered down in the original X-Men movies. Like, you have those people who need to be a little bit more graphic.
Well, the thing is the original Wolverine was just as potty mouthed as Deadpool was. He was a kill first, ask questions later type of character. Yeah.
And that's, I think, what makes him compelling. And I would love to see them play with there's been a lot of chatter about when the X-Men finally arrive in the MCU, who should anchor them. and there's been talk about signing Hugh Jackman again to play Wolverine.
He
Which
already turned it down.
I would love to see him in like an old man Logan role.
I think if they do I mean, of course we know we're getting into the multiverse, and I could see bringing Hugh Jackman in for like a multiverse older man type thing. But I think that although I think Hugh Jackman played Wolverine fantastic, I think Wolverine needs to go in another direction per se, and I think it's time to pass the torch. Now, Hugh Jackman already turned it down. I did read an article that Disney did give him. They offered him a huge contract to come back as Wolverine, and he turned it down. He said he's done. He's done with the character. Not to say that he hated doing the part, but he feels he's lived the life for that character. And then that even goes with the guy who played the Punisher and the guy who played Murdoch. Disney has extended out possibilities of bringing those are the only two characters they're talking about bringing from the Netflix series into the MCU. Now, the benefit we have for the MCU, I would always say, I think the greatest advantage the MCU has is we have Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
Kevin Feige is a fan first.
Yes.
He wants to see these characters be portrayed properly, just like the rest of us do. That's why when he said, Fantastic Four is eventually coming, but forget about everything you ever seen before.
Yeah.
Because he knows we have to give Fantastic Four the proper justice it deserves.
Yes. All those movies have been terrible. That makes me sad.
It does. I know some people are like, oh, well, the original Fantastic Four, with Jessica Alba and stuff like that. To me, where they really screwed that movie up was Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
I think it was a horribly portrayed Doctor Doom. And
Doctor Doom in one movie.
Yeah.
Like he is a Thanos type arc.
Yeah, exactly. He's up there. And but what I am also, on the side of looking at positivity is I actually hope that either Disney does one or two things. Either they eventually buy them out or they extend this handshake to Sony.
Yeah.
Because I think this, Sony's building this Spider-Verse. And I think what they're doing is fantastic. I think how they're doing it is fantastic because they are taking a note from the MCU. And they're doing one of the most beloved characters of all Marvel Universe, Spider-Man. And I think they have a fantastic actor in Tom Holland. But I think he is going to be the main character for a long time that's going to be able to jump between the two sides.
Well, so I occasionally write articles for a comic book, film, and TV blog called Bam Smack Pow. Mm-hmm. And one of the articles that I wrote in like June was about the handshake agreement where there have been leaks that the old Avengers plus Spider-Verse is going to be what happens in Sony. And then they build up the remnants like of the post-Endgame teams and, the new franchises that they bring in with like the Inhumans and like the Celestials and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And that will be what happens through, Marvel and Disney. And then there will be a big crossover in those moments where you need it. So I think that would be kind of cool to help keep Spider-Man going because 4 is terrible as like DC has been with films. We haven't gotten a Spider-Man franchise that's made it beyond 3 movies that, we're going to get this third one in the MCU now because Tobey Maguire was 3 and Andrew Garfield only got 2.
They had bigger plans for him, but then, they had their split up and their breakup and stuff like that. I'm not hating the fact that they had extended an offer out to Jamie Foxx for Electro. Okay. I'm not hating that. I didn't like, first of all, I always thought Electro's outfit was one of the best outfits in all of friggin' Marvel. And the fact that they completely got left out, I mean, I get it. Maybe you got to do more CG, but I think you need to go a little bit, back to old school on that.
Yeah.
But I'm not hating it. I think he played a decent Electro. But when we talk about Spider-Verse, I think that they cast one of the greatest guy to play Carnage in Woody Harrelson. I mean, who could have played that crazy bastard better than him?
When I saw that reveal at the end of the Venom movie, I was like, I'm in.
Oh yeah, and I liked Venom. I know Venom got some mixed reviews from a lot of people, but and to me, the only thing that Venom lacked was the villain. I don't feel that. I felt that they could have cast that person better.
But I think it did a good job just kind of exploring, like, we saw Venom in the third Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, or we got the black suit Spidey.
Yeah, that was a really bad version of Venom.
Yeah, and I think that did a good job kind of showing what symbiotes could do. I think it did a good job kind of showing the sheer breadth of the symbiote universe in a singular movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would be pretty cool in terms of looking at what the symbiotes can do to build to Carnage, and then see how we cross over between everything else. That I think Venom becomes one of those vessels that could really create crossovers into everything.
Oh yeah,
because people associate Venom and Spider-Man together because of the runs that you see in books. But you've seen,
and Venom's always been that guy. He wants to be good, but he wants to be bad at the same time. But I think Tom Hardy played a great part in that, and I see Tom Hardy, really taking on that role for a long time. Mm-hmm. I think he's fantastic. Now we did have a question here. He said, "Hey Tech, would you want to see a Captain America 4 where they show him returning the stones and his ending?" Only if I'd only want to see a Cat 4 if they brought Chris Evans back, first of all. And because to be honest, I think he just everything about him shows a great Captain America. Yeah. But I don't think I want to see it on him returning the stones. But I think there's going to be some. To me, I think that could be a perfect, because again, he's going back in time. Yeah. So what happened? What's the greatest villain that time travels? You know this, right?
You got me, Kang
the Conqueror. So I mean, and Tony already hinted, and I said this last week, I think when I was with Will, Tony already hinted that I think he knows Kang, of Kang being around, because he said, he made that comment of, you what was the comment now? The history, the past has a way of fighting back.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think, and I agree with them, that I think that's kind of a snag, that I think he knows of Kang.
Yeah.
Now again, being that they jumped history to get the stones, I think grabbed Kang's attention.
Yeah.
And I think that Captain going back, I think that would then even grab his attention more, where I think a Captain America 4 battle with Kang could definitely be somewhere in there. But I think they're going to bring Kang in, but I don't think they're going to bring Kang in until they, bring in more Fantastic Four. Because, I mean, of course, one of the greatest, parts, I think, of Kang is the fact that he's the son of Mr. Fantastic and Sue Storm. So, which is, I mean, I remember reading that in a comic book and I was blown away by that. And I was like, what the hell?
Well, and that's the hard part too, in guessing who will be this next all-consuming villain after Thanos, because my mind goes to people like Kang and Galactus, but you need Silver Surfer, the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, you have to introduce Silver Surfer before I think you get into that.
Yeah.
Well, at least I think you have to get into Silver Surfer before you announce Galactus.
Yeah.
Silver Surfer and Galactus go hand in hand.
Yeah. And I could see that being a little bit of a tease, because what's the Inhumans is the one that's supposed to come out.
Eternal.
Right? Eternals.
Eternal.
Where I could see him crossing in, like being a reveal at the end of that a little bit.
Well, because he was around during the Eternals.
Yeah. But aside from those two, I can't think of anybody who would be as threatening as Thanos is across the board.
Now, I'm still saying I think the next big event, the next big Avengers event is going to be Secret Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's going to be it, because there was also the Russo brothers, in fact, came out and said, they were asked if they would be willing to direct another Avengers movie. And they both said that they would be willing to do it only if it was Secret Wars. Because again, the Russo brothers, I love the Russo brothers.
Yeah.
They are like Feige. They're fans just as much as they are, directors. And they want to see these things be portrayed as closest to the comics as it can be. I mean, of course, we all know that, Infinity Wars by the comic books didn't end the way it was shown in Endgame. Because of course we never got Adam Warlock.
Yes.
We all know that Nebula is the one that actually got the gauntlet off of Thanos.
Yep.
There was no Iron Man snap.
There's no
stuff like that
appearance at all.
So I think, and I think I would still like to see Adam Warlock somewhere. He's already been hinted in Guardians.
Yeah.
Why haven't we seen Adam Warlock yet? I figure we would have in Infinity Wars, to be honest with you.
Well, and there were a lot of people, because I did a bunch of digging on that, and I feel like the two characters that should have been included in the Infinity Saga should have been Adam Warlock and Namor.
Oh, I would love to see Namor.
By the time we got to, halfway through the Stones, Adam Warlock would have had to have had his own film, and that just would have oddly extended it. But there are still talks of Warlock showing up, which that's been one of the series that, in terms of books, has stayed oddly low in terms of most runs that show Warlock.
Well, Warlock was he was almost like the peacekeeper of the universe, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I always portrayed Adam Warlock. I mean, that's why he was able to take the Infinity Gauntlet. Yep. They didn't destroy it. They didn't put stones back. I think that MCU went that route because they knew their next steps. They knew they wanted to incorporate the multiverse.
Yeah.
And I think that by doing it the way they did, they wanted to get into that. Now, if we're going to talk about, Captain America: Return of the Stones, to me, you got to ask your other question here is, to me, I think the greatest question here, and this is an MCU question. This is I don't think a necessarily a comic book question. If I'm wrong, please tell me. But at this point, what happened to Natasha? If you return to Soul Stone, and her soul is trapped inside that stone, technically, if you return to Soul Stone, wouldn't her soul be released?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Or does her soul get stuck in there? I don't know.
Well, and I think the Black Widow film is supposed to set up like her sister, who makes a second big run as Black Widow. I cried when she went down.
I did too.
In Endgame, because I was a big fan, and I went the night it was released, and I got the commemorative soda cup that they had, and you could pick between them, and I picked Black Widow, and someone went, I don't know how you'll feel about that choice after. And I was first of all, fuck you.
Yeah.
All,
shut the fuck up.
Double down. But yeah, I think seeing that becomes kind of a good ripple effect what if question. And I think in terms of looking at playing with the multiverse that we know is coming with the Doctor Strange film, does the existence of the What If series on Disney Plus give them some more room to play with some of these
questions we all have?
Time stream. Yeah.
Because again, the what if, I think that's going to be the one series that is not actually going to be part of the MCU. I mean, that was, I think, the greatest part about when Marvel created the What If comic books. It was that series to just, it had nothing to do with any other series, but it was that question that all of us fans said, you know what, we always want to know what would happen during this.
But and that they could use that series to like field test an idea that they could now run with in an alternate time stream, depending on how they play with the multiverse after the Doctor Strange movie.
But when I first heard a lot of people are like, what if, what the hell is that? When I first heard about it, I was like, dude, I'm excited for that. I mean, that's going to answer so many questions for, especially if they do it right. If they go back and look like in Natasha, what happened when the Soul Stone got returned? I mean, the other ones, whatever. But the Soul Stone had the most pivotal, point of all of them. And, I mean, to me, that was the biggest part in there. With it. I mean, and the thing is, even if they talk about, hey, we turned the stones and we made, when the what was it, the lady from Doctor Strange said, hey, you gotta patch the timeline back together. You guys let Loki go. That timeline is never gonna be back together.
Well, and that's the basis for his whole show.
Exactly. See what happened to Loki when he left. And again, guys got to remember, this isn't the Loki that we all, started having, feeling for on the good side, from the beginning of Infinity Wars, or even that, at Ragnarok. This is the Loki that was still bitter and was mad after, Avengers 1. So, he never had that experience that he had on Ragnarok.
Yeah.
So that right there brings it to a whole new level of what's going to happen with Loki. I mean, he's a god of mischief, and everyone loves him for it. But again, it just brings up so many possibilities. And like I said, we're not even talking about how they're incorporating the Fantastic Four or even the X-Men at that. Oh, that's another one I just realized that they did extend an offer out. They did extend an offer out to. I just did read that to the guy who played Professor X.
Which one?
The one in the main movies, the older one.
Ian McKellen? No, that
was Magneto. Stewart, something. Patrick Stewart. Yeah, they did send an offer, and he turned it down.
Oh,
he was a fantastic Professor X, by the way.
Yeah, but playing with the X-Men becomes interesting. Like, do you go with the older timeline? Do you go with the younger timeline? Do you reboot a new class? Like, I thought, the young X-Men building up their own timeline.
I think that was a good series.
Because they crossed over in Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
And then we only got Wolverine movies from there on out.
I actually did not hate the young class series. I think it was well done. Of course, heavily relied on Wolverine on top of it. But I like how Mystique was also a very big spotlight on one of them and stuff like that. I think it was just a well thought out series. So I enjoyed it, but I am still yet to, because I guess a part of me doesn't want to have his Wolverine be done. And I have Logan. In fact, I've purchased the movie. It's in my iTunes. I am yet to finish watching it because I don't want to see it be done.
But I think that movie gives us the answer to the Wolverine question, and it's X-23. Like, I think that movie so brilliantly sets Laura up as a character in terms of starting to understand what she can do throughout the course of the film.
Yeah.
And that they're going to attempt to make the films more diverse and inclusive than, all of the white people we got plus Black Panther, that having, the helm of Wolverine led by a fairly compelling character that replaces the role of Wolverine in some of the, decently sized storylines becomes interesting.
Well, that's a great topic you bring up nonetheless. I mean, I would say all the X-Men movies were heavily, heavily forced by Wolverine. It was heavily focused on Wolverine. And I think they have an opportunity now, the fact that Hugh Jackman had turned that down, I think they have an opportunity now to realign the theory of X-Men, because X-Men wasn't always based around Wolverine. Wolverine was just a highly popular character.
Yeah.
Because I mean, again, he was like Deadpool. He was a potty mouth, just wanted to kill everybody. He was a great combination between Deadpool and the Punisher, you know, in my eyes. But you know, I think I'd like to see them bring it more, not just solely Wolverine focused, and go more with the team and stuff like that. Because I think even from the original X-Men, you know, I think it was great that the first one had relied on Rogue, and I think Rogue's a great X-Men. But then what happened after that? It's almost like you guys forgot about Rogue.
Yeah.
You know,
well, I mean, picking something that centers on Storm would be great. Cyclops has been the forefront of a lot of good arcs, even, and that could be a good one to play with the inclusion of the Deadpool films now potentially being into the MC universe or MCU, since you know that Cable survives, and Cable is what Scott Summers
is a time traveler,
and he's a time traveler. So you could see some of that pairing up of Cable and his father. That could be quite fun.
And that could bring another thing. Cable's from the future, so Cable may know of a lot of things that could happen. You know, he may know of Kang, he may know of Galactus. You know, where some of these guys aren't. Now, of course, we all know that I know we talked about this in the earlier live stream with Wayne. That you know, we know that Ryan Reynolds got one of the largest MCU contracts ever. And so we all know he's signed to a huge multi-movie deal. Whether he's going to show up small in somewhere or he's just going to be aside, other than his I mean, I could see them doing at least 3 more Deadpool specific movies.
Yeah.
But I personally think, because we all know that, of course, Black Widow's done. He's not going to show up in there. Yeah. Eternals was being filmed before the contract happened. Of course, why would he show up in the Eternals? That was all way before any of this ever happened. Yeah. I think he's going to show, his first appearance is going to show up in Shang Chi.
I could see that.
I could. That's where I could absolutely see him showing up, is in Shang Chi. Now I'm very excited for Shang Chi, and especially even, I mean, we're talking about characters that have been announced. We haven't even talked about like Blade. I'm excited for Blade to come back. I think that one's going to be awesome. And you know, but and then I don't know if it got announced yet, or I know they've been talking about it forever, which is Gambit too.
Yeah.
But that would, of course, be in the X-Men side of it. But
there was supposed to be a Gambit film way back when, and that died real quickly. I think after like the second Wolverine.
I know Chaden Tanning was trying to do it for a long time, and I don't know. I just don't see him playing Gambit. Yeah. To be honest with you, I just don't think that fits into there. But you know, like I said, I think there's so many, especially having Kevin Feige in there. They have set up. Yes, they gone to try to go by the comic books as much as possible. Yes, I think they have. Yeah. Now, have they made some of their own storylines? Of course, but that's going to set up for something, I think, even bigger down the road. So, I think that's where comic book fans can even still appreciate it, because I think even though they've changed stuff, we can accept, because we know where this could eventually lead to.
Yeah, and I think knowing that it's been very fan service centric in terms of Feige and even all of the directors that they've picked.
Oh yeah,
I think like you get the grumblings of like, that's not how it happened, but I'm okay with it. Like, I loved the book Ready Player One.
Oh,
and I walked out of the theater when the movie was done. Yeah, and I was like, I got mad at this. And then I sat down and thought about it, and I was like, but Ernie Klein was the screenwriter. They had to deal with the stuff they could or could not get copyright, you know, approval for. So my outrage book loving nerd turned off, and I was like, it still hit the right notes, even
Oh
if
yeah,
it missed.
and I would agree that the
there.
book I have read the book for that, and it had way more pop culture in it than
Yeah.
what the movie portrayed. And I love '80s pop culture. I think it's fantastic. And I mean that's a great movie. And have you checked out Ready Player 2 yet?
My wife told me it came out, so I downloaded both the book and the audiobook. That I think as I'm cooking for Thanksgiving Part 2 tomorrow, I'll be listening to it.
I hope Spielberg grabs it. I hope they make a movie out of it. I don't care what the storyline is. I love the first one, and I can still watch. My wife will catch me all the time because I always have to have the TV on when I fall asleep, and I will fall asleep to Ready Player One all the time.
Yeah.
I thought it was one fantastic movie. What's up, JB? Thanks for swinging by, bud. Appreciate it. But like I said, that aside, that's a fantastic movie. But like I said, I think of course, Marvel's on a big things of mine because we just haven't had any movies. Now, how do you think they're going to incorporate WandaVision into this? Because we all know everything is put out for a reason when it comes to Marvel.
Yeah. And that trailer blew my mind when it started going with like, we just thought it would be the hokey what if love story, and then it's playing into the broader thought process of like the delusions of the Scarlet Witch.
Exactly.
Well, I'm wondering what like that could do a lot of things to kind of potentially make her some sort of potential threat in the same way that the Phoenix was to the X-Men, because she at the point where we saw her in Endgame, she knew how powerful she was, but did not still know how to grasp all of that or how to utilize everything.
Well, I think you really saw that too when Thanos had killed Vision. Especially when she, and yeah, you actually bring up an Endgame. I mean, she had Thanos beat.
Yeah.
She had Thanos beat all on her own with nobody else. And it wasn't until he did the shooting down from above, she would have been right. She's powerful. And people don't realize this, but Wanda's storyline doesn't end well.
No.
It does not end well at all. I mean, I like the Scarlet Witch, and I think the girl that's portrayed her is fantastic, but she goes crazy.
Yeah.
And she kills popular characters that we all know and love.
Apparently it's going to build into some of the plot of Doctor Strange, which makes sense.
Which would make sense. Which would make sense where you got some characters' contracts are ending around that time. Yeah. But it could also build up for the Young Avengers as well. Mm-hmm. Because spoiler event, whether you guys know it or not, one of the big ones, Wanda kills Ant-Man.
Yep. And
that's why Cassie, of course, been hanging around the Pym particle for so long, ended up getting powers where she didn't shrink though, she grew, and she becomes a Young Avenger, and she's not a fan of the Scarlet Witch by any means, because Scarlet Witch killed her dad.
Yep.
In a rage of any of all things, a rage because of I think her son.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's one thing people get rid of. I'm excited for WandaVision, but it does not end well with Wanda.
No. And I just loved how it turned from like hokey 50s, 60s sitcom feel into like an American Horror Story kind of moment in the last 30 seconds. And I was like, I need more of this trailer now.
That's why when I saw that part when it flipped, I said, okay, first of all, this is in her mind. Mm-hmm. And second of all, we're going to see that other side of Wanda. And fans aren't going to like it. But if they play it by the books, it's just what happens. It's the way Marvel put her in. They're not going to, especially if you're Scarlet Witch fans, you're not going to like what happens.
Yeah.
if you haven't read the comic books. I remember reading it when I was a kid and going, well, this is jacked up. This is messed up. And yeah. But I do like how they've morphed the Young Avengers into it and stuff like that. So I would like to see them bring that into it. Although have you talking about younger superheroes, have you seen New Mutants yet?
No, I am. That is probably a tomorrow night rental kind of thing. That
Yeah, I'm right there.
It's been chaotic, and I know that it's gotten skewered. And part of that is because this has been the film that feels like it's been 10 years in the making from
they changed it a couple
altered.
times.
Yeah. But I'm still excited for it, especially in terms of New Mutants being kind of the bastard stepchildren to now like a horror element.
Yeah.
That I think if that film was more successful than it was, then I think you could get into some more of the scarier, darker elements. Like I know Morbius will turn things in that direction.
Morbius looks good though. Morbius looks really good. Jared Leto is fantastic.
He is the perfect casting for someone that.
I think this completely redeems his comic book world Joker. That the Joker was horrible in all aspects of and he's definitely. I mean, like I said, he's a fantastic actor, but that Joker was just bad.
Yeah,
bad. But this Morbius, it's the moment I saw the trailer, I'm like, I want to see this. And then when I saw the Morbius trailer too, it's like, okay, we are really now starting to see this Spider-Verse develop and get in there. And I would even like to see it to where, and then again, you got another crossover between Sony and Disney, because I believe it, and I could be wrong, but I believe there was a comic about Blade fighting Morbius, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
Up in some of the, like, there have been 3 fairly popular arcs of Morbius, and one of them was like the newest run was really, really good, that focused primarily on Morbius and Spider-Man with a couple of Wolverine cameos. And then COVID just pushed that one so far back on the calendar that I think pre-COVID we got like the 4th issue maybe. And you can tell that they're trying to finish the arc, but Marvel is still trying to play catch up with all of the irrelevant titles to their bigger events.
Oh yeah.
But that could be good.
I mean, we all know. I mean, with the Marvel universe, nonetheless, there's so many directions Marvel can do. I mean, yes, we're into phase 4. We've been in phase 4 forever. But we know they're going to get to phase 5 and phase 6. But really, Disney, I think, other than Star Wars, because really they're at a point with Star Wars where they've reached their limits. Now they got to come up with more storylines and more off branches and more stuff to kind of tie things together. Marvel, there's so many different avenues, and I think with the MCU, they've got something that they're just going to continue going on for years and years and years to come, because there's more and more storyline. The only thing, okay, let me ask you this: in all of comic book series, what's the one thing you do not want to see ever portrayed and want to leave it in the comic books for the way it ever is? Is there a moment or a area that I've got one specifically that I do not want to see brought to the movies? I hated it in the comic books.
Let me hear yours, and I'll let you know if that triggers anything for me.
The death of Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
That was a pivotal point for all Spider-Man characters.
Yeah.
The death of Gwen Stacy was, I mean, that was a shocker to the comic book world. And, and then what's funny is I even saw an article, I think it was, they did in Comic Book Man with Stan Lee. And he even said he had no part of that decision. He was actually out of the country when that decision was made to kill Gwen off. Horrible decision. And like I said, I don't. If they bring Gwen into the Spider-Man as it is, because right now we haven't had Gwen brought in yet. Into this one, I know we had Gwen in the Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, but like I said, I don't want to. I mean, that was hard enough in the comic books to read that and go, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
Well,
and I think Gwen Stacy is functionally irrelevant in the current Spider-Man universe because you've got Zendaya as the main squeeze.
She's like the MJ. She's the MJ.
I don't know if there's anything that's wholly off limits for me, and I think part of this is the in Feige we trust.
I would agree.
In seeing any kind of big pivotal moment like that, like the death of Iron Man in Endgame, you're like, shit. But then that to fill a Tony Stark style role, they've got something up their sleeve with, are we going to see Riri Williams soon and an Ironheart? Are we going to see
what I think the point also of, is it sad to see Chris Evans lose a shield? Is it sad to see Iron Man not in the suit anymore? But I think those two characters alone, those two characters has carried the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Now they've got an even bigger plethora of characters after buying Fox. Now they're going to have even more characters that can grab that reins and take it to the next level. Now, are we going to see, I think, glimpses of Tony? Of course, we all know we're going to see Tony somewhere in Black Widow.
Yeah.
Because Tony was alive during, the time frame that Black Widow was put in. But, there's rumors saying that Tony may make an appearance within the multiverse somewhere. I mean, because of course you can bring Tony back in during that point.
Yeah.
But I think there's so many big characters, especially when you talk about Fantastic Four. Reed Richards and Sue Storm. If you cast that and do that correctly, those are two characters that can carry a group or something of that nature. Now, have you heard about, I think, or did you see them, that there was set photos released of Winter Soldier and Falcon?
No.
And they have I can't remember his name, but they have a large, something red something. It's a mutant. It's the first mutant to be introduced into the MCU.
Is it Omega Red?
Yes, Omega Red. There were set photos released. And of course, it was quickly taken down soon afterwards. Because of course, Omega Red was not that's supposed to be your surpriser right there.
Yeah.
But Omega Red is supposed to make an appearance in Falcon Winter Soldier. Although what I think people are realizing is, I've done some research on Falcon Winter Soldier. They do replace Cap to an extent, because Falcon doesn't get the shield right away.
Yeah.
He knows he has to earn it.
Sorry, you dropped this knowledge on me, and now I'm
I'm surprised you didn't hear about Omega Red. So
I'm really excited about that then. Omega Red is badass.
Yep. Yeah, when I heard about it, I saw the set photos. I was like, oh, now you can't search the set photos. You're not going to find them anywhere on the internet.
Yeah.
But it was like, wow, really? That was like a bomb that dropped right there when I heard about it.
Well, and it's almost like that increases the urgency to needing a Wolverine, because you have some amazing throwdowns between Omega Red.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, but that's dope. Oh. Of all of the things that have been released, or they've released information on, we know they are things, what is the next film that you are the most excited for?
For some reason I knew you were going to say that, and I was actually bringing up real quick some of the, of course, the set list of what is due to come out, and some of these are. We'll just talk Phase 4. Let me bring up this image real fast. If it will come up larger, you suck. So I'm going to bring this up. This is upcoming years. We're talking Phase 4. Of course, we all know this has gone completely to the wayside of the order, because we all know that Falcon Winter Soldier is not releasing first, and WandaVision is actually releasing first among all of these. But if we're talking Phase 4, to be honest with you, especially knowing some of this, I mean, of course, Falcon Winter Soldier is a huge one for me. Shang Chi is one I am very, very excited to get into. Eternals, I think, is going to be good, and it's going to answer a lot of old school questions for people, but I don't think it's going to have that pop. I don't know. It has a chance to have that pop and pizzazz, but I'd like to figure out after watching it where they see the Eternals going. It's like, because here's the other question with that is, if the Eternals have been around this whole time, where the hell were they during the Infinity Wars?
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I think that's a good one.
Their big premise is around the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
So where the hell were they? So that's a big question. And then, of course, I think right here in the middle, which we all know that's not going to happen May 7th, 2021, that's going to be pushed back a whole year. But this film right here, Doctor Strange, I feel Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is going to drop a bomb on the entire Phase 4, setting up everything for Phase 2, because you're going to have so many different things in there about that. The only other one that kind of course, other than the What If series, which I think is going to be fantastic, and of course, I think Hawkeye is going to set up things for his daughter in this one. But the other intriguing one, and this answers a lot of, to me, I ask a lot of questions on this one, is Thor: Love and Thunder. Of course, we know Jane is back. We all know Jane's going to carry the hammer. We all know Jane did carry the hammer. We also know that Jane died from carrying the hammer because it sucked. She's immortal. It sucked her life force out.
That Love and Thunder is the film that I am hands down the most excited about, because it takes from a mixture of Jason Aaron's run on Jane Foster as Thor, and then part of the current book, Jane Foster Valkyrie, where she is dealing with cancer, and she's dealing with like having to jump between being an actual doctor and then dealing with her cosmic role.
Well, she got, I think, the cosmic role. And the way I've always perceived her later on is she knew she was dying because of wielding the hammer. But it was almost like an addiction for her.
And then I'm going to grab.
What's up, Mama Day? Gigi Mama Bear?
The show that I'm most excited for, and it comes from the font. Hawkeye, when he is written in a title, is written so many different ways.
Yeah.
That's the Hawkeye that is used in all
the same one they use.
And this is Matt Fraction's run on Hawkeye, which is absolutely hilarious in terms of like the story arc and just like Hawkeye being the how the hell did you get on a team of like superheroes since you just pew a bow. But what I want to see happen, I think it's book 10. There is an entire issue in Matt Fraction's run. Yeah.
I came for Toby.
My son. That is told from the point of view of a dog.
Ah.
And it's all Pizza Dog. So if we can see Pizza Dog make it on Disney Plus, that would be awesome.
Well, I again, when I first heard Hawkeye, I think, well, you're going to set up a big premise. Now, the one thing I think to a certain point, was kind of a letdown in Endgame. If I were going to say anything was a letdown in Endgame, it was the fact that the Ronin character wasn't pursued more.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we all know the Ronin character was worn by multiple people.
Yeah.
But when I first saw that he had the Ronin outfit on, I mean, in the trailers, I was like, dude, this is going to be awesome. And that's the only time you ever saw him wear it. I'm like, really? That's just wrong.
But that could also be a multiverse angle that if we got a full Hawkeye as Ronin, like, I would pay that. Like, I would spend money to watch just Jeremy Renner with a sword for 90 minutes.
Just wiping out complete clans and gangs and stuff like that. I mean, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I would almost like to see. I mean, that would be another premise. What if Hawkeye, the Hawkeye TV show, gets placed after his family went missing? After his family got dusted?
Yeah.
How did he get from that point to Ronin?
Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
That would be interesting.
Because I think for him taking on the Ronin persona, I think is a great story in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there was three people that took on the Ronin persona.
Yeah, and there was a recent Hawkeye 5-issue series where there was a robot. Why can't I think of the goddamn character's name? But there was a robot version of the Hawkeye man that wore the Ronin costume so he could extort money from the mob.
Nice.
It was pretty funny.
But I would say probably out of all the Phase 4 we're talking, I really think, and that's why I think, originally I was like, why are they going to push Eternals so quick? And I think they're pushing the Eternals because the Eternals is going to set up part of the Multiverse of Madness.
Yes, I think you are spot on there.
I think that's why they have to introduce that.
And we could get the Watcher showing up in the Eternals instead of Fantastic Four. Using the Watcher, we could get bits and pieces of that in. It could also set some things up to make the Guardians of the Galaxy bigger than they were in the Infinity Saga, because that's where you see some of those things. Nicely done, King Bob. But I think that could be a good way to play with something, especially because Ego was a Celestial, so we saw Celestial, but we didn't see any of the Eternals. Yeah,
there's only been one actual Celestial ever shown in the MCU, and that was the flashback of the Power Stone. I believe that the purple was the Power Stone, isn't it?
Yeah.
I forget. Yeah. When the Collector had shown the past history of the Power Stone, and you had the Celestial. That's the only actually, yeah. That's the only showing of a Celestial in the MCU so far.
A Celestial or an Eternal?
I thought it was a Celestial. I get confused.
Because Ego was a Celestial, right?
Oh, that's right. Ego was a Celestial. That's why he knew about it. That's a good question. I get him. To be honest with you, I get him confused nowadays.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I think that's what's going to answer that is that has to come out. That has to come out before Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Because it's going to answer those questions. Now, what do you think the reason for Shang Chi coming out before Doctor Strange? You think they're just doing it to bring in a new character, or do you think there's a reason they're bringing Shang Chi in before a Doctor Strange?
I think bringing him in could be the same reason why we saw everybody kind of piece their way into building into the first Avengers role. Now we know what the universe is, and we need some new names that get played in, where Shang-Chi could become one of those characters.
Well, I believe Shang-Chi in the world of, or the timeline of Avengers eventually became one, didn't he?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure. But I remember reading the early Shang-Chi before they use them in crossover stuff, and I always loved the original. I always liked kung fu movies growing up. I thought they were great. But to me that was like, okay, cool. We got a kung fu type, superhero. This is awesome, and I thought that was great. But that's Phase 4. Now, what do they? Do you remember what they're showing for Phase 5?
No.
Or actually, no. Maybe they haven't talked about it yet, or have they?
Because I think that's where the next Spider-Man technically comes in. So where's this from? Oh, nope, that's some asshole on YouTube. That's where I would put me talking about anything. All right.
Now, do you think we're going to see? Now, of course, we know Tom Holland's supposed to make either an end credits role or somewhere sort of role in Venom 2. Do you think that he'll have more of a placement in the Venom or the Spider-Verse, Sony Spider-Verse, before we get Spider-Man 3?
Probably. Because he's going to have to do... He's going to be in Morbius at some point, especially when we saw Vulture make an appearance in the Morbius trailer. What I'm seeing listed for Phase 5 is all Black Panther 2, which, watching how they deal with the death of Boseman, and is it Shuri that gets to don the crown, is a good
I think
one.
you can honestly play that two ways. I think Shuri would be a fine person to take that on, but I also think you could possibly replay Killmonger into that as well.
Yeah.
You have to manipulate it a little bit, but I could see it happening.
That would have to be a multiverse because Killmonger died.
No, that's what I'm thinking. I'm sorry. I didn't say my whole thought. Yes, and that I think would be a multiverse situation.
Yeah.
But I think, again, we already know that the multiverse is being introduced.
Yeah.
Before we get to that point, but I think there'd be a strong thing. Now, I found something here. It does say Marvel's official announcement for Phase 5 releases, and that is, of course, Captain Marvel 2.
Yep.
This one could get interesting. This is something that, and I didn't think I remember seeing this, but this could be something that I would have been hoping for a long time. Is you got Spider-Man, the Sinister Six.
I don't see that one on my list, but that, what are you seeing listed for? It's Spider-Man 3 and Untitled Project is what the next one has been listed as.
No, well, I'm trying to see if this is.
But that could be dope. A Sinister Six film.
I think. Well, we all know that the only thing that's ever been, I think, originally shown about that is who takes over, and it wasn't even really announced. It's something you had to catch in the background. And, of course, we all know that Tony sold Stark Tower or Avengers Tower, and there was a scene of it later on, and I can't remember which movie it was, but I remember catching and going, oh, my God, because we all know who buys that tower. Norman Osborn.
Yep. So
there's an Oscorp sign on that tower. So when I first saw that, I was thinking they're going to release Sinister Six. It's perfectly set up. To me, when they did Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Andrew Garfield, they teased us with Sinister Six.
Yeah.
And then it never happened.
Well, that could be the other thing with Sony and all of their Spider-Verse films. Do you think they could play off of all of the different Spider-Man titles? Could we get a Spider-Man, an Amazing Spider-Man, a Superior Spider-Man?
Black Suit Spider-Man, Secret War Spider-Man. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the only thing that would bring that in would be the only thing that could bring that in would be the multiverse, because then you're gonna have the different styles. I don't know. That one's still up in the air. I've seen a couple different things that say Phase 5 stuff, and I mean, one that's closest in here, it has something about the Sinister Six, and then of course you got Blade, which we know is officially announced.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which should be, I think, well, should have started filming by now because James Gunn is done with
Suicide
Squad 2. We got Fantastic Four, and this one names it Black Panther and Namor.
Yeah, that's been everybody's like. There have been two theories as to where Namor would show up. The most prominent one is Black Panther, because you hear Okoye in Endgame mention the earthquake in the ocean, and you have some of those good battles between Atlantis and Wakanda.
Well, I remember when they said that in the movies, the earthquake in the ocean. I thought my first mind went, "Are we going to see Namor?"
Yeah,
because to be honest with you, Namor's powerful as hell.
Yeah, and depending on which way the wind blows, he's either a hero or a villain.
Yeah,
so he could be like a Loki, who is a 2 or 3 film arc villain, and then he becomes one of the good guys.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know. I mean, it just goes crazy with that. One that I am looking forward to, and I'd like to see them develop because I did love him as a superhero, is Nova. Nova is, of course, very well been announced. Of course, then we got X-Men, Miss Marvel, and the New Avengers. The only other one I know that I've heard, and again, there's so many. I don't think Phase 5. I think Phase 4 is locked down for what we're going to see. I think there's so many rumors going around with Phase 5 right now, where you've even got another one here talking about Wolverine and Blade. And then, of course, we got a Silver Surfer. You got Avengers, Age of Galactus. I mean, all these are what people are thinking. And then you got to know somewhere in there we're going to get an Ant-Man 3, Ant-Man and Wasp. There's even one has someone putting an Ironheart, which I think we're too early for Ironheart, to be honest with you. But
if they're starting to introduce young Avengers, like Ironheart would make sense, especially in someone filling the void, because the other like Iron Man Easter egg from the funeral was like
the kid
panning back to the porch. Yeah, I was like, who the fuck is that kid? And one of my students was like, it's the kid from Iron Man 3. I was like,
2.
Damn it. 2? No, 3.
No, yeah, you're right, 3. He's a kid, and I did the same. I did the same thing when I watched the movie. I'm like, I saw when they panned out, I'm like, who the hell is that kid?
Yeah.
And as I'm thinking, if this kid hasn't shown up in any movies recently, why is he there? Marvel's not going to put him there for no reason. So we know he's there for a reason. Could he don the armor? It's very possible.
Yeah.
The Thunderbolts is another one that is strongly considered, but I don't foresee them doing the Thunderbolts this time around. Yeah, we're we're wrapping up in a little bit. But I just want to go over some things. And the only other movie that I do not see on here that I think people have not talked about that I have heard big things on is Miles.
Yeah.
We already know the live action actor for Miles has been announced. So we know that Miles Morales live action is coming at some point. When, we don't know.
Well, and the same thing too with Moon Knight, because they announced a Moon Knight actor for something. And I can't remember where that happened because the value of the first appearance of Moon Knight went way up.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good one too. But there's so many different ones in here. As far as possibilities for Phase 5, but at this point, I think the only thing we can hold tight on is what Phase 4 is going to be, because we know all that for a fact.
Yep.
The only difference is, when are we going to get it?
Whenever people are going to stop getting COVID on movie sets.
Exactly. But let's end this with crossing our fingers that the meeting announcement in the beginning of December comes good, and we can get Black Widow on Disney Plus, because I will be the first one to pay $30 to watch that damn movie.
I'll be number 2 on that one.
Because I'm going through serious Marvel withdrawals. But Hey, buddy, I want to thank you for coming on. This has been a great discussion, and I'll definitely start doing more Marvel Universe. I think this is probably the first time since I've been doing as we just got on to so many things with Marvel. I haven't bashed Robert Pattinson's Batman yet, so I just figured I had to throw that in there. That's for a whole different discussion with you, but I'm either at some point when that movie comes out, I'm either going to look like I am completely correct or I'm going to look like a complete fool.
You can eat crow for a while, eat more spoiled milk, jelly.
If I have to eat crow, I will eat crow. I still think he's a horrible actor. But again, that's a discussion for another day. But anyways, thank you very much for joining me on another edition of Techbot After Dark. I always appreciate it. You and I have great conversations because we definitely go into everything Marvel. I know you're the indie comic guy, but I also know you're a Marvel guy too.
Yep, I'm a Marvel guy by birth, but indie comics in my blood.
There you go. Well, guys, if you haven't done so already, this was a last minute thing, so I didn't have Comic Book Poser's information in the description down below, but definitely run a search on him. Get over to Comic Book Poser if you like comics. If you like indie comics, this is the guy to check out. He's going to give you all your indie comic countdowns every week. I think every week.
I have some DC sneaking in. No, every week.
Every week.
DC sneaking into my top 5 this week, though. There was a fire DC book that came out. So,
but I like DC comics. DC movies, however, are questionable.
I'll spoil it for you. I'll tell you what book you should go buy tomorrow if you're near your shop, because this one was real good.
Oh, yeah? So, well, again, guys, check that out. If you want to know which comic that is, definitely hit up Comic Book Poser, and he will give you the rundown on all the great comics coming out. Guys got fantastic information, so definitely hit over them. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and as always, guys, unleash your inner nerd. Have a great one.
Woman is
Wrong.